Let's do a quick review of the steps to complete when creating a database. Number 1, you want to decide what information you will store in the database. Number 2, you will create the layout of the database. And number 3, you will create a relationship diagram to identify the table relationships, primary keys, and foreign keys. Steps 1 through 3 will be created on paper to develop a schematic of the database. When I say on paper, I mean you'll use some kind of software. In this case, we can just use Microsoft Word to document our database. There is software to use when documenting your database to create the schematic, but we will not use it. In this video, we're going to talk about steps 3 and 4. In step 4, you will create the database using the database software of your choice. In this class, we will be using Microsoft Access. If you are using a Mac, you cannot create the Microsoft Access database because there is a NOT. If you are using a Mac, you cannot create the database because Microsoft Access software is not available for a Mac. In the previous video, I did not complete step 3 because completing this step using the software will provide a better understanding of the concept. Before we complete step 3, I would like to go over the basics of creating a database using the research papers database we have talked about previously. I would like you just to watch this and follow along because I will be giving you the steps to create this database during your lab. First, we need to create the file. Open Microsoft Access. Click on Blank Database. Notice, unlike Excel, we have to create the file before we can create the database. Click on the folder icon. I will save this file on the desktop in my Tables and Relationships lecture folder. I will call this file Research Papers because that's the database we are creating. Then I will click on Create. Notice we have a table created for us called Table 1. We also have a field called ID. We do not want to use that field name. And we want to create our table self-describing with the table name self-describing. So we are going to click on View. You could actually create the table here, but I like to create it in Design View. So you'll click on View, click on Design View. We will give it the name. I'm going to create the client data table first. Click on OK. I'm going to change this to Client ID. And I want to make this a text field, so I click on S, and it makes it short text. We're not going to create any descriptions to identify the fields. Down here, I've selected Client ID, and I want to change the field size to 5. That's a field property. And notice the client ID should be a primary key because each client is identified by a unique client ID. I want a first name field, short text, 25. I want a last name field, short text of 50. I want an address field, short text of 60. I want a state field, short text of 2. Now I'm going to create a default value. Because most of our clients are in Ohio, I'm going to put a default value of OH I click on the ellipsis. Excuse me, I don't want to click on the ellipsis because I can just type this in. OH. Notice it puts the quotes around it because it's a non-numeric field. The zip code is going to be short text. Anytime you're creating a field and you will not use it for a calculation, create it as a text field. And then we have the home phone. It will be a text. Now we're going to create an input mask here. I'm going to save the table, and then I'm going to create a phone number input mask. Now I will close the table, and the table is saved. I will open the table by just double-clicking, and I'm not going to type in all the information, but I want you to notice the default value is OH. Notice there's an asterisk on the second row. It's because there is an open area for you to type in information. And notice the OH is there. That is not a record in your database, that's just a placeholder. When I click on the home phone field, it shows the input mask that we created earlier in Design View. Now I don't have to type in the parentheses or the hyphen when I type in the phone number. The parentheses and the hyphen are not stored in the database. That's just an input mask. Notice the entire phone number does not display on the screen. Double-click between the home phone field and the click to add, and then you will see the complete phone number displayed on the screen. This does not change the field length, it just changes the display. Another nice feature when creating an input mask is that if you don't type in, for instance in this case, if you don't type in all of the numbers for a phone number, you'll receive an error message. I also want to note that the field here stored in the database does not include the hyphen and it doesn't include the parentheses. We are going to close out of here and click on Yes. I'm not going to create the other tables because I just wanted to show you how to create a table. Again, all of this will be explained in your lab.